Hello again, everybody. Here's a game that for the most part is a very positional game, but it ends with a very interesting combination. It was played in 1911 with Witkoff with the white pieces and Waite with the black, and it's a 4 knights game. And it goes like this: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, bishop to b5, bishop to b4, and now both players castle. White now plays d3, black plays d6, white brings out his other bishop to g5, and now black retreats the knight from c6 back to e7, and white immediately captures the knight at f6. Black, of course, recaptures with the g-pawn, and now white retreats his knight from c3 back to e2. Black now plays the pawn up to c6, hitting at the bishop, so white retreats the bishop to a4. Now black moves his knight over to g6, and white moves his knight from e2 to g3. Black now moves his king over into the corner. White now plays the c-pawn up and hits at black's bishop, so black retreats it to a5. White moves his queen up to d2. Black now swings the rook over to g8 in the half-open file. White now moves his king into the corner, and black plays his knight up to f4. White now moves his rook over to g1. Black slides the queen over to f8. White now takes the knight at f3 and moves it out to h4. Black moves his rook up to g5. And so white basically puts the knight right back on f3 to attack the rook. And so black just moves the rook on up to g4. Now white retreats his bishop at a4 back to d1, obviously threatening to move his knight back to e1 and have a discovered attack from the bishop on the rook. Black brings his queen out to h6. And white decides, instead of just moving the knight back to e1 for a discovered attack, he decides to do it a different way. First he moves his h-pawn up to h3 and hits at the rook. Of course the pawn can't capture since it's pinned by the black queen. Black now brings his bishop at c8 up to e6, and now white goes ahead and plays the move that he really wants to play. He plays his knight to h2, which really looks like a good move because now the rook is attacked 3 times, not only by the knight and the h-pawn, which is no longer pinned, but of course also the bishop at d1. But looks can be deceiving, because now it's time for the challenge to the viewer. If you'd like to pause the video now and see if you can find black's surprising move, I'll wait for you. Black plays the very surprising move, knight takes h3, which is really remarkable when you look at it, because not only is the rook still attacked twice by white's bishop and knight, and of course black's knight at h3 is also attacked by the g-pawn, black's queen at h6 is totally undefended. But white sees that if he swoops down with his queen and takes black's queen, black ends the game with a smothered checkmate. Knight takes f2. And it's at this point that white also sees, if we go back to the original position, that his own queen at d2 is totally unprotected too. So obviously if white were to go ahead and grab the rook, then white would simply, or excuse me, black would go ahead and swoop down and take the white queen. So what white decides to do is just move the queen out of harm's way, and he moves the queen to c2. But black goes ahead and plays knight takes f2, check, which forces white's response. He has to capture with the queen. And that's when black drops the other little bomb. He plays queen takes h2, check, forcing white's king to capture, and black now ends the game with rook to h4, checkmate. A really exciting finish to what, quite frankly, was sort of a boring game. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.